Hey guys, it's Tricky Nick here. Today, I reveal to you one of my deepest, darkest secrets. I was a FNAF kid. Is it obvious? Well, yes, the fanbase that played Five Nights at Freddy's was mostly little 12-year-olds with dyed hair and a Markiplier shrine. Five Nights at Freddy's was a truly genre-changing game. So today, I thought I'd take a look back at all the Five Nights at Freddy's games which I hold so near and dear, and rank them from worst to best. This list will include exclusively the games developed by Scott Cawthon alone, so Help Wanted and Security Breach will not be on the list. Also, as much as I'd love to gush about the convoluted lore of the game, I'm gonna try to keep it out of my rankings as much as possible. I don't want to bore you guys by talking about the lore too much. Anyways, without further ado, get ready for Freddy. Or Bonnie, or Chica, or Foxy, or really any animatronic that could kill you in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria Simulator. The surprise that this game was a Five Nights at Freddy's 6 got me so hyped when I first played this game. However, it kind of wasn't really a full-fledged Five Nights at Freddy's experience. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator sees the player taking over one of the many Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria locations and buying supplies and animatronics to grow the franchise. At the end of every day, we complete a list of things to do for our restaurant in a dingy office with 2 vents on either side of us. Wait, how did we even get in here? Then, we get to the scariest part of the game, which isn't really that scary in my opinion. Here, we either choose to salvage or toss out some of the old animatronics of unknown origin and proceed to give them audio prompts and record the results, or we just toss them out and nothing comes of it. If the animatronics begin to move closer to you when they respond to the audio prompts, you have the option to tase them a couple of times, but if you do it too many times, they lose their salvage worth. This plays into how much money you'll have at the end of your day at the pizzeria. This never really gets very tense though, as you have more than enough shocks to use on the animatronics. Furthermore, these animatronics are a far cry from the original designs, and I think they're pretty ugly. Springtrap literally has a head the size of a watermelon. This isn't scary. When we do choose to salvage these animatronics though, they affect the nights that follow by crawling around in the vents while we complete our daily tasks, and we have to fend them off by using audio cues and silent ventilation. This game falls significantly shorter than the other games in the franchise in my eyes because the actual horror gameplay takes a back seat. It's not nearly as heavily emphasized in this game, and it's pretty boring to sit in the office with no cameras or anything, just completing tasks. The only things this game has going for it is that the pizzeria simulator aspect of it is pretty charming and silly, and the game ties the lore together and ends it once and for all. Five Nights at Freddy's Ultimate Custom Night. Ultimate Custom Night was Scott's final solo hoorah in the FNAF franchise. As the name implies, Ultimate Custom Night is the definitive Five Nights at Freddy's custom night experience. No previous game even comes close to the sheer number of characters we have here. So the basic premise of this game is just to see how many of these animatronics you can fend off at once. The more animatronics you add or the higher you turn up their AI levels, the higher your score is if and when you beat the night. While it's amazing that Scott was able to make so many unique mechanics for all 50 animatronics featured in the game, this also works against its gameplay. Ultimate Custom Night often feels way too overwhelming in my opinion. Just look at all the hotkeys we need to memorize. On the other side of things though, I really like all the characters and voice acting here. It's a really silly and fun touch on the game, especially Mr. Hippo and his ramblings. Those are so stupid.
But I reminded him that it was winter, and often birds will sit in a tree until they freeze, and then they sort of fall to the ground until the sun warms up and they can, move around again.
Every character looks really good here too. Scott even added characters that were just Easter eggs in previous games, like JJ, the Balloon Boy variant that hid under your desk in FNAF 2. But when looking at Ultimate Custom Night from a gameplay perspective, it's pretty fun if you know the very many hotkeys, but it's not very scary. Jump scare animations have been simplified in order to save on storage, and as a result they don't really shock you as much as they should. While Ultimate Custom Night was a nice send-off to the series by bringing all the animatronics together in one place, the actual gameplay was pretty overwhelming due to all the new mechanics added, bringing it down a little bit. Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. With a desire to take the series in a new direction, Scott decided he would create a totally new sister location and all new animatronics to go with it. This game featured full voice acting for the first time, which was a little jarring to hear in a FNAF game after 4 entries without it. And of course this birthed the cringy exotic butters and casual bongos, which are very memeable just for the sake of being memeable. But the reason I consider this game at the number 5 spot is the style the game adapted. Each night sees the player completing tasks among various parts of the sister location's restaurant, rather than staying in an office fending off animatronics. While this game is truly terrifying, whether or not you enjoy it all really comes down to whether or not you like this new style of gameplay. Personally, I much prefer the more restricted movement of the games where the player is stuck in the same environment and provides you the same tools to work with every night. It really adds to the sense of dread. In this game though, I feel like it's a lot of crawling through pitch black areas and getting jump scared out of the blue. It just makes it feel kind of unfair. Also, the designs of the animatronics are pretty non-threatening, and in some cases even goofy looking. I mean, I burst out laughing when I heard the story about baby eating a child alive. That is until the jump scare. Even still with the jump scare though, they're all very similar. However, the story of the game does take some cool twists and turns throughout, so I commend it for that. I really didn't know how the game was gonna end. Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I remember the first time I played this game. I was snowed in and I was playing on my rinky-dink Toshiba laptop, absolutely eating this game up. I absolutely love the phone guy voice here. Knowing it's Scott makes it even funnier.
You'll be starring as the security guard.
Also, after the lack of camera use in the second game, I was so happy to see the camera so heavily utilized once more. Unfortunately, a look back at this game shows some glaring issues. First off, this game is either really easy or ridiculously unfair. There's not really an in-between. The first night doesn't even have any animatronics in it. You just sit there. Even when Springtrap, the only animatronic, is there, either he's kept at bay with audio cues flawlessly and you get through the night with ease, or all your systems are failing every 5 seconds, phantom animatronics are jump scaring you, making it impossible to keep track of Springtrap, and he gets to your office within seconds. The balancing of this game was just done so poorly. Another issue with the game is the setting. The setting of the game being a Fazbear horror attraction, it feels really out of place when looking at the other settings of previous and future entries. Finally, Springtrap's jump scares are straight up boring. It looks like he's just coming by to say hi, not kill you. Although, I will admit, some of the phantom jump scares get me even when I know they're coming. Overall, Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is an extremely flawed entry in the series, and I'm glad Scott decided not to end it off like this. Five Nights at Freddy's 2. This game was released at the peak of the hype for Five Nights at Freddy's. The day this came out, I almost considered staying home to play the game all day. The new mechanics of no doors after so heavily relying on them in the first game was an insane change-up that really shocked me. Along with that, the new method of placing the Freddy head over your face in order to fool the animatronics is so scary. I mean, a massive animatronic literally comes into your office, mere feet from you. It's absolutely horrifying. The gameplay is also really restricted and tons of fun. It gets even better though when the game reveals to you that it's actually a prequel to the original game, making the already interesting story of this game more complex. The phone calls, especially the Night 6 one, add to the extremely eerie vibe. They even can make you panic more in some situations. But the two main issues that hold this game back are the toy animatronics and lack of camera usage required. While the withered animatronics look really menacing, the toy animatronics aren't really that scary looking. In fact, some people have made some very inappropriate art of Toy Chica. I don't like this. As for camera usage, it's basically impossible to use any camera other than camera 11 past night 2, as you need to constantly be winding up the music box, then checking back on all the many entrances that animatronics can get in from. Looking at any other cameras honestly hinders the player more than it helps, as it takes away from time you could be winding up the music box or tending to Foxy. This only takes away from the game a little though, as being in the office with tons of other animatronics is so horrifying. It keeps it fresh and fun. Five Nights at Freddy's 4. When this game originally came out, I was too scared to play it, and it's not hard to see why. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 sees the player taking the place of a child in his bedroom, trying to fend off nightmare animatronics by only using the sound of their breathing. Every single time you go up to that door and listen for breathing, it's agonizing. You have to gaze into the dark void that could hold hefty nightmare fuel and kill you. Once you're at that door, you have to make the decision whether or not you want to turn on your flashlight and risk getting jump scared, or shut the door, return to your bed where you continue on with the night. If you made the wrong call though, you're still gonna get jump scared. We also have to worry about Freddy and Foxy, who occupy the bed behind you and the closet in front of you respectively. These two fellas keep the player from just holding the door and waiting the night out, forcing them to check on them in order to avoid jump scares. Later in the game, we get a total toss-up when the animatronics change from our typical 4 to Fredbear and Nightmare. These animatronics appear only in the later nights and force us to listen to where they're scrambling around to prevent them from getting into our room. I love this total change-up that's thrown at you. It puts a twist on the typical gameplay and throws the player for a loop. The first time I saw Fredbear at my door was absolutely shocking and I had no idea what to do and I just died. That being said though, I think Scott leaned a little too far into the nightmare theming of the game, making the environment feel a little outlandish. While these animatronics are supposed to be the scariest they've ever been, they seem a bit absurd when looking back at where the franchise all started. I mean, don't get me wrong, this game is definitely scary, but more so due to the anticipation of flashing the light down the hallway and hoping you don't die. While some of the jump scares are really good, there's also stuff like Nightmares, which is just one frame with dumb radio noises playing, and Nightmare Cupcakes, which is totally ridiculous. I mean, how can you not laugh at the fact that this is a Nightmare Cupcake jumping at you? Like I can freaking eat this thing, it's a cupcake! Five Nights at Freddy's, truly lightning in a bottle. Everything about this game was done so incredibly well. Responding to the criticism of his characters from one of his games looking like scary animatronics, Dollar General employee Scott Cawthon decided he would lean into it and create a game centered around scary animatronics trying to kill you. Thus, the original Five Nights at Freddy's was created. From the setting of this game, the well-designed animatronics, right down to the ambience, Scott created a genre-defining horror experience. Taking place in a security office, you, the player, have been hired for a minimum wage summer job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria to work the night shift. As you quickly find out thanks to the very iconic phone guy voiced by Scott himself, things at the pizzeria are not as they seem. The creepy and unsettling animatronics, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy, begin to move around this Chuck E. Cheese-esque establishment, and we need to use the cameras to search around for them and stop them. This is truly creepy and unsettling, as the second you lose track of an animatronic, your heart drops and a sense of dread comes over you until you find them again. When the animatronics get too close and arrive at your door, you're met with a jarring sound and you gotta shut it before they disable it. If they do disable it before you're able to stop them, that defeating little click noise will instantly send you into peril as you wait for your imminent death. There's also Freddy, who's not actually seen at the door but will come into the room if you let him get too close without shutting the door. This forces the player to look at the cameras to find Freddy at all times. We're also required to periodically check on Foxy the Pirate Fox and make sure he's not dashing down the hallway towards us. But if we use the cameras and doors too much, we may run out of power, which will result in Freddy making his way to us and killing us, accompanied by a bone-chilling song. The original Five Nights at Freddy's is obviously the best because it was so perfectly balanced to keep the player constantly engaging in different activities, keeping it tense throughout. Along with that, the animatronic designs are unsettling while not seeming outlandish, and everything about the game is spooky. You just can't beat the original classic Five Nights at Freddy's experience. Scott really poured his heart into this one and it shows. And that concludes my ranking of every Five Nights at Freddy's game. In the end, out of all of Scott's concoctions, the original Five Nights at Freddy's still remains the best in my eyes. It's definitely a must-play horror game. Anyways, I'm off to go trick-or-treating. As long as I don't eat any razor blades, I will see you all in the next one.